and I am back with another creature feature. With my creature feature series, I am taking you into some of my all-time favorite species. We're going to go mostly into natural history. I am an exotic animal educator. If there's a specific animal that you need husbandry help, I do have a couple options for you. I will have care sheets available for purchase through my website very soon, and I also do husbandry consults. Unfortunately, I need to get too much information to adequately help with your husbandry issues through comments, so I do have other avenues to be able to help you. These are fun videos that tell you about the species and not so much the care of the species. So today's video is on Dumerils boas. This is one of my all-time favorite snakes. I often say that if I could only keep one species of snake for the rest of my life, it would be Dumerils boas. I do have three. Aphrodite was supposed to join me for this video today. However, in my filming area, which is our bedroom, we currently have kittens that are staying back here, and we were doing some major cleaning on the other portion of the house, and I cannot use bleach around ferrets or birds, so we currently have a really full house back here, and it is not a good idea to have an 8-foot snake around any of these animals. She's great with my dogs. She doesn't really want to be bothered by them. She's a little bit afraid of them even, I think, so we do keep their distance, but having them around 2 to 3 pound ferrets and 2 to 3 pound kittens and birds is a really bad idea. Because Aphrodite cannot be in this video, she is going to get her very own video. We're going to talk about how we got her. She's done some really out of this world things. She is one of our educational ambassadors. She has been in a major motion picture. This snake has seen the world, honestly, guys. So Aphrodite's going to get her very own video. I'm going to do species videos for my creature features. I'm going to do a series called Meet the Menagerie, where I will introduce you to my pets and educational ambassadors. That will go not so much into species, but their stories and their personality. Lots of really, really interesting stories that go along with that. So watch out for that series to come. Familiar Scales Exotics is also currently being remodeled, where we have a huge build out going on with all of our caging and enclosures. So I also could not film there. As soon as that's done, I will be filming more animal related content there. And I will also be doing some cage building videos. We have a huge order from Animal Plastics coming. I love Animal Plastics. They're a great company. Really high quality caging for the price. Is very, very professional, but doesn't break the bank. Animal related content, I have a ton coming in the future. As I said, Dumerils boas are my very favorite species. So I'm literally just sitting in bed editing, and I'm pretty sure that there is a snake in my bed. At least one, if not two. You're gonna think I'm crazy, but I mean, I think this one likes me. People are not familiar with Dumerils boas. They tend to think they're looking at a common boa or a red-tailed boa. When you know what you're looking at, they look very, very different. The common boa is boa constrictor imperator. The red-tail boa is boa constrictor constrictor. Boa is our genus. The second word is our species, and that third word defines a subspecies. The common and the red-tail boa are very, very similar. The Dumerils boa is Acrantophis dumerili. They are from Madagascar as opposed to South America, where all of the boa genus boas reside. So they are very different geographically. Dumerils boas are a lot cooler in temperature. They don't need as much humidity either. They're definitely a lot drier than the others. The biggest difference is personality, which I will get into a little later in the video. Dumerils are their own species, very separate from the common boa. They are closely related to the Madagascar ground boa. Colors are a little bit different, body style is a little bit different, but they are very, very similar. The Madagascar ground boa is Acrantophis madagascariensis. So you see that genus is the same. A genus is essentially a grouping of different species that are very genetically similar. If you want to learn more about taxonomy, that is one of my all-time favorite things. I'm definitely going to do a video that teaches a little bit more about basic taxonomy. Charles Darwin was a biologist. He basically is the founder of taxonomy. Is one of the biggest early names in animal science. I have a plesiosaur tattoo. It says Darwin in the rib cage here. I ode to Charles Darwin across my chest here. It says, "The love of all living creatures is the most noble attribute of man." That is also a Charles Darwin quote. When I heard it, I knew I had to have it on my body. I didn't know where. When I was having my chest done, there is a lot of different animal related stuff going on here because it is very close to my heart. Thought it was the perfect place for that. My path led me to becoming an exotic animal educator because I'm a huge geek, so fascinated by evolution and differentiation between species and adaptation, things like that. Even from the time I was really small, I was watching documentaries and just soaking it all in. So Dumerils are a heavy-bodied, ground-dwelling snake, 6 to 8 feet, sometimes more heavy-bodied than other species of boa even. Say 6 to 8 feet, you're probably thinking, wow, that is huge. Snake world, it's not. To me, ball pythons, they get about 4 feet or so. That is a small, medium-sized snake. We do have some stuff that's smaller than that, but there's not a whole lot that in the pet world is kept that's a whole lot smaller than that. There are. Most of it is fairly uncommon. There's only a handful of species that are easily attainable and easy to keep that are smaller than that. Being 6 to 8 feet, I would call that a medium-sized snake. And we get into our, 16 to 20 plus foot retics and berms. That's what is a large snake to me. Because the Dumerils boa are so incredibly docile, they are very mild-mannered, they have great personalities, they're just very sweet snakes. I just think they make such a wonderful pet because of their size, because of their temperament. They do live 20 plus years. It isn't unheard of for individuals with optimal care to live over 30 years. Dumerils boas are native to Madagascar. They inhabit the southwestern region as well as the southwestern coastline. To live in savannas and grasslands among leaf litter and low shrubbery. Color and pattern absolutely leads to their camouflage. Leaf litter, they blend right in. It's pretty amazing that big of a snake can disappear with the right substrate. They tend to have very beautiful mottled pink and peach tones, beautiful deep black saddles, several that are very much purple and blue mottled in the white on the sides. And the pattern on the sides are called faces by many people that keep Dumerils boas because they really look like the laugh now, cry later faces. In the wild, they're really more shades of brown and tan. However, that is also color from the environment depositing into their skin. It is captive or wild, a freshly shed snake looks way more vibrant, a lot cleaner pattern, brighter colors. They look like a totally different animal. Skin does pick up color. I'm sure in the wild, picking up the color from the environment does definitely help them to blend in a little bit better. Snakes are living in clean bedding that's being changed regularly. You don't see it nearly as much. They do get a little bit discolored. It becomes quite cloudy before it sheds, so there is still a huge difference between pre-shed and post-shed. They live in Madagascar. As I mentioned, it's a lot cooler. Snakes want to get no hotter than 85. Most snakes in the pet trade usually sit between 85 and 95 even. Variation in temperature needs between species, but Dumerils boas are definitely on the cool end of that. In the wild, they eat mostly small mammals, birds, lizards. I can't speak on wild Dumerils because I have not personally studied them. Dumerils are some of the pickiest snakes. It can be hard to get them eating. Be hard to get them eating consistently. That being said, in captivity, we really want to see our snakes eating, if not every week, every other week. In the wild, a snake may not do that. They may take way larger meals, eat way less frequently. In captivity, we definitely want to see them eating consistently. We want to see their system being used regularly. They do definitely tend to stay a little bit here, and that's why in general we tend to see that captive animals across the board definitely live longer than their wild counterparts. I think that we do see a lot of trouble eating with snakes because biologically they can go a lot longer than we want them to in captivity. The first things I teach new snake owners is you cannot stress when your snake skips a meal or two. Pretty normal for the most part. That's not to say that there aren't snakes that aren't great eaters, eat once a week, on the nose. A lot that don't, though. Snake is healthy and not acting off, usually that's really not a problem. I can tell you with all of our different educational ambassadors, each one has slightly different eating patterns. Eat like champs. I have a handful that you could basically hit them in the face with a rodent and they're still not going to eat. So Dumerils are very picky, so find that like a specific food source, they stick to it. So with some species, it's really a good idea to vary your food items if you can from types of rodent, even small birds and things like that. Always frozen or dead. We don't want to feed live food. That's very dangerous. Videos coming on that. Super passionate about the subject because it is so dangerous and harmful to the animals. With Dumerils boas, I don't usually recommend varying up their food source at all. And that is because an animal that tends to be picky and they get stuck on something. Let's say you happen to get guinea pigs in. Those are a very hard to find, very expensive food source when you can find them. Dumerils only wants to eat guinea pigs and you can't find them for a year. That's not a good thing. So you really want to make sure that your staple is going to be something you can find regularly. If you have picky snakes, you may not want to skew from that if you don't have to, only because it could be very difficult in the end. Carpets are another one that are very picky and you have to be careful because they get almost addicted to certain food items. Absolutely love carpets. and care for a few different species myself, so I definitely have videos coming on those later on. Aphrodite is one of the pickiest eaters I've ever seen. She is huge and healthy. Young, she ate very sparsely despite being offered once a week. She shot up to 4 feet in a year and a half. She did the opposite of power feed the snake. Like, we couldn't get her to take even every other week. It was less than that she would take. And I've seen that a few times, which is what leads me to believe that snakes can do okay eating less. We also don't want to force them to eat less. A lot of very, very underweight, unhealthy animals because they're only eating once a month because the owner has a very old school method of feeding. If your snake wants to eat less than once a week or every other week, we want them to tell us that. We don't want to force that. And when I say they tell us that, that's when they're regularly skipping meals, but they're still healthy and is relatively normal. You start to see your eating pattern. But until then, you don't want to just dial it back because you feel that's the right thing. They will tell you how much they personally want to eat without really getting overweight. The overweight snakes, those are also usually power-fed snakes. Power feeding is dangerous. They get big fast. Snakes can't always take growing that fast. It tends to very fatty snakes, harder on their skeletal system, their muscles, their organs. Snakes do not live very long for that reason, and usually the ones we see that are overweight are power-fed. Come on, power feeding. Despite being fabulous pets, great personalities, they are not very common, and that's because they have very small litters. You're lucky to get 6 to 10 babies out of a Dumerils boa, and this is a 6 to 8 foot snake. 9 to 12 foot snake in various species of boa, where you're getting 30 to 50 babies. I've even heard of some females, 70 babies. You give live birth. They're basically internal eggs, shells made of membrane, develop inside of the mother on their own. There's no umbilical, there's no connection to mom. She's basically a living incubator until babies come out. The way to sex a Dumerils boa is that the male does have large spurs inside of their vent. Is where it comes out of, and it's also where their sexual organs, which for males is hemipenes, would come out of. Also called the cloaca. Either side of the vent or cloaca are little spurs, are extremely tiny, if not non-existent. This is all species of boa, actually. They all have spurs. The males are larger, and they actually use them to sort of tickle the female side to entice her to breed with them. As I said, males have internal genitalia. They have what is called hemipenes. They work independently, so if one is injured or damaged, the other one still works just fine. Are always very excited to learn about hemipenes. To be honest with you, it usually goes over really well. I have covered quite a bit here. Back into the difference between Dumerils boas and the boas of the boa genus. So the Columbian, the redtail, even Central Americans. Dumerils boas are so laid back and docile. They have really wonderful personalities. Interested and curious. I cannot sing the praises of the Dumerils boa enough as a pet snake. They're just want in a pet snake. That is what you get. Mine in particular, Aphrodite, when she was a month old, I want to say we got Venus. Our friend had him and was gifted to me as a Christmas present. I was ecstatic because I am absolutely in love with Aphrodite. We ended up getting Ishtar a few years later. Ishtar definitely isn't as familiar or as personable as Venus and Aphrodite are, just because she isn't as comfortable with us. She is a great snake. On one event with us, and she did absolutely phenomenal. You'd think she'd been doing it the whole time, just like they had. In terms of interacting with us, Venus and Aphrodite are definitely a lot more interested. Ragnar can walk in and put Venus and Aphrodite on the opposite side of the bed. They will come find me. They'll be on my legs, wrapped around my limbs, just relaxed and chilling. It's been like this for years. They'll sit under blankets with me like that for hours. TikTok video that I just recently got to kind of demonstrate how they are. They are every time they come out. The biggest lovers. And what's funny is Ragnar really does feed them and do most of the maintenance in that area. So it's literally just a connection to me. It's not the fact that they're being fed by me. It's a familiarness that is unlike any other snakes I own, even, to be honest with you. A retic that we lost kind of tragically due to a heating issue that was also very, very close to their personality. But the Dumerils boas are definitely still a little bit more so. The boa genus are honestly very unpredictable. And what's funny is the Central American is the smallest locality. They really only get 4 to 5 feet. The crabbiest. They're almost always a little bit strike at almost anything. And the redtail, predictable, is they may be fine every single day for a year or 2 years. Something and then you're getting bit in the face. Just have a 9-foot boa. Family raised it from the time it was very small. I'm sure they leaned over the cage a certain way. They probably did this 100 times before. For whatever reason, spooked the snake. It grabbed her here, right on the inside of her lip. At that point, they were no longer comfortable. That's just how Columbian and red-tailed boas can be. They're fine until they're not, and then they might be fine again for a while. Require a little bit more management. They're a carpet python, for instance. They're also very bitey snakes, but you can read them. They definitely show different signs. It's not out of nowhere. They're always that way. The aggressive carpet python, they're always that way. A Columbian or redtail may seem very laid back until something, usually it seems very unprovoked, they're biting, and that is a very, very large snake to get bit by. I don't ever recommend Columbians or redtails for beginners. That those are great. I think they're the worst. Quite frankly, the amount that they get passed around when they hit that 6, 7, 8-foot mark because they are untrustworthy and people become afraid of them, I don't like to see them in the pet trade at all. And unfortunately, those larger snakes that do require an experienced owner, those of us with the experience just don't want to deal with them, honestly. I would rather have a laid-back, trustworthy pet snake to hang out with, such as the Dumerils, one that I can't ever fully trust, especially with other animals around. My snakes are never around my other animals other than the dogs because it's not safe. Even with the dogs, them being 50 pounds, we are make sure everybody keeps their space. Nobody is in each other's faces. A lot of management. A large Columbian or redtail, I would not even have in the same room as my dogs. So there is just a huge difference in temperament. I know people are probably going to comment and say my redtail is great, and I get that. Some of them are great and never have an issue, but as I said before, not a problem until it is. Anytime I have ever witnessed a video of an educator, an educational show, and they get bit, it is a redtail or Columbian boa. Every time. I've done 100 shows before, something different spooked the animal, and now they are biting. Not to say any animal cannot act out, especially in that setting. It absolutely can. They are animals and they have a right to react if something makes them uncomfortable. However, it is also, as a professional and an educator, there is a responsibility to choose very specific animals, very specific species work, and even still you want very specific individuals within that species that are socialized, that are laid back, that are able to handle that environment. Coming on this because I know that and entertainment with animals is a hot topic. We have a lot of thoughts and a lot of ethics that we put into that. Have a bit of a discussion coming on that later on. We have a lot of protocols for doing any kind of event with animals. Have a different outlook and different set of protocols than most educators do because we want what's best for the animal. And through that, that's also a teachable moment to explain put into our educational presentations or when we take animals to events. So I think I covered just about everything. As I said, Dumerils are one of my favorite species. I cannot sing their praises enough. If you have any questions on the species as a whole, please comment below and I will answer your questions. If you have more husbandry specific questions on Dumerils, boas, or another species, absolutely help you out. I'm going to need you to go to familiarscales.com. I will put a link below to our contact page. You can fill out that form and we'll figure out what the best way to help you is. Features, you will always see a makeup look accompanying those educational videos. I thought that was a really cool way to tie things together and make it work on my channel. Inspired makeup video is coming up next, so make sure you watch out for that. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit that bell to make sure you don't miss a thing, and I will see you next time.